Welcome everyone to this Monday, July 20th, 2020 regular board meeting. Mr. Roberts, will you please call roll?
Mr. Butler.
Here.
Mr. Kruger.
Present.
Mr. Metzler.
Where'd John go? Oh, there he is.
There he is.
I'm sorry, I was on mute. Here.
Mrs. Talley.
Here.
Mr. Unati.
Here.
All right, everyone is here. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Sattler?
I am sharing it now. Can you see that?
Yep. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance to the
to
flag,
the flag, of the
United
United
States of America,
and to the republic
for which
for
it
which it
stands,
stands,
One
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 nation.
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
Indivisible.
indivisible,
With
With
liberty and
and
justice.
justice
for all.
Amen.
That is so much better when we're all in the same room. Okay, Mr. Sattler, do we have any additions or subtractions from the agenda?
We do not.
Okay. So with that, I'm going to ask for an approval for the agenda as presented. Need a motion. Mr. Yanati?
Second.
Mr. Butler will second. And will you please call roll, Mr. Roberts?
Mr. Unati.
Yes.
Mr. Butler.
Yes.
Mr. Kruger.
Yes.
Mr. Metzler.
Yes.
Mrs. Talley.
Yes.
All right, the vote is 5-0 for the agenda. We are going to move on to presentations, district presentation.
We do not have a district presentation tonight, Matt. The presentation will be during my speech with the back to school plan.
Gotcha. All right. So we'll move to item C, which is public comments. Kai, do we have any public voice?
We did. We received several submissions for public voice tonight, and we want to thank those that submitted. Just a reminder to those watching that questions may be addressed during the virtual meeting or on a later date when district administrators are able to provide the necessary information. Allison Boer and Mohammed Farah submitted requesting a change of the Indian mascot. Joanna Roush, Barry Frey, and Jennifer Wilford submitted regarding mandating masks for all students and at all levels. Melanie Boss and Paul and Andrea Markoff submitted regarding mandating masks and submitted questions on the return to school plan. Nick Bond submitted questions on the return to school plan as well. And Arnetta Davis submitted questions on the return to school plan, recruitment of African American teachers, and African American curriculum across all grade levels. Mr. Sattler will share information on the back to school plan and hopefully will answer some of the questions that were submitted. And for all those that submitted, someone from the district will be in contact with you to answer your questions this week.
Thank you, Kaya. As far as the name change questions, after speaking with some folks on the board and Jim and Kaya, this is not the correct venue to get into a deep discussion or dialogue through a Zoom meeting. So I plan on addressing that with the board and folks at a later date. So we are not dismissing that, but we are going to table it till we have a better forum to have an open discussion and some constructive conversations. So. And again, Kai, you said if a lot of those, if some of those questions are not answered by tonight's meeting as far as back to school, someone will be back in contact with those folks directly, correct?
Correct. Yes, somebody will reach out to them. We have email addresses and phone numbers for all those that submitted, so somebody will be in contact with them.
So I appreciate everyone sending those in. I appreciate your patience. It's a little bit different format, so might take a little bit of time to get back to you, but we will. With that said, we will move to the executive reports, and Mr. Roberts is up with the treasurer's report.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Kruger. We have gotten through the fiscal year, so this is going to close out the year report to show where we were in relation to the forecast for the fiscal year. We projected the cash balance at 33.1 million, and we were right at that at 33.1 million.
Mr. Roberts, could you make that a little larger, please, on the screen?
Sure.
I don't think it's just me. There you go. Thank you.
Is that better?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. So we forecasted 33.1 and we hit 33.1. So we were about $7,900 off from the forecast. Revenues were up slightly over forecast and expenditures were up slightly. So we were within 0.5% on each. If we look at year-over-year trends, some of our revenues were up, mostly local revenues were up. Property tax up almost 171,000. Public utilities up almost 78,000. Income tax up 278,000. And then you get to the state line items, which were combined down 379.53, so just over 400,000. State revenue line items were down for the year. That was due to the budget reductions that were announced in May. We actually lost about 540,000 on our foundation, but we did pick up some additional wellness money that was posted, so that's why it's only looking like 420 instead of the 540. So we did get additional wellness money in this year's budget that we hadn't received in prior years. Other revenues are down 121,000. That was mainly due to student fees, pay to participate fees, those type of things. Some people either didn't pay because the seasons were canceled, or we did substantial refunds towards the end of the year for pay to participate. So we basically missed all of the spring for pay to participate. We receive about $210,000 per year in pay to participate. I don't know the exact number, but we received about half of that. So most of the 120 is really due to that piece of it. We'll be coming up against that again in the fall. I know we're going to have a discussion later about student fees. Personnel services, salaries, and benefits, which make up most of our expenditures, about 74%. Salaries were only up 1.7%. Mainly, we moved some salaries out to the wellness dollars into a separate fund. So that kind of minimized our increase. Benefits, which is mostly health insurance, up almost 6.6%. Purchase services ended up being up 651,000. However, we paid off the lease purchase this year, 630. So really, purchase services were only up about $21,000. So year over year was pretty close to what it was last year. Supplies and materials were up slightly, 113,000. Everything else falling right in line. Revenues exceeded expenditures, which is what we want to see, by $3.5 million. So it puts us our cash balance at 33.1. Last year at this time it was 29.5. So we're heading in the right direction from a cash balance standpoint. You can see that we have $50.2 million total. So we've got 17 million of money in other funds. Interest continued to perform very well. We posted 49,000. We posted 947,000 for the year. So the last 2 years we've earned $1.8 million on interest. I do expect that to go down some next year, but we did have some long-term investments on the books, so I don't expect it to go down too far. Maybe in the 750 to 850 range. I highly doubt we exceed the 900,000 mark, but we do have a plan in place to not just lose all of our interest that we've been having over the last few years. Any questions on the fiscal year? Leading into next year, just some highlights. The state budget hasn't came out yet, but it's expected that our baseline will be the baseline that we were reduced to in May. meaning they reduced us down to about 18.6 million. That's what we're expected to be at for the state funding, 18.6 million. We were told that it could be even more than that, so I think our forecast at 18.2, so that's good news. Property tax advances are starting to come through. Those are looking equal or better than they were last year at this point. I talked to the Fairfield County Auditor today, and he basically said we shouldn't see too much of an issue this time. It would be in the next settlement in February, March time is when schools might start seeing issues because most of the escrows already had the property tax in them. So if people start having bankruptcies and foreclosures on their homes, then that's where we'll come into issues later on property tax payments. They do think that there's a bailout plan for the banks to help with this. They just don't know how much or if that will match what everybody has been receiving on property taxes. From a federal standpoint, we do have the CARES funding. There's still some issues and some controversy surrounding how the money is distributed out to non-public. So at the time, there's an interim decision from the federal government basically saying if you choose to only use it for Title I purposes, which we would, we have to allocate smaller amounts, and that which is beneficial to us because before we were going to have to allocate almost $130,000, and under this model would be under $10,000. So it puts more money into the public hands and not the non-public. So they had 30 days to decide and hear comments to make a decision, and then a final ruling will come out. So we'll be getting our first income tax settlement here on July 31st. It'll be a really good indication of kind of where we are for the fiscal year when it comes to income tax. I know the state's income tax has been recovering pretty well over the last couple months, so hopefully that's the case for us. So some good things to look forward to. I think we still need to be somewhat conservative, just not knowing exactly where this COVID thing is taking us into the future. I think there's still a lot of unknowns, and we're just probably at the tip of the iceberg right now on the issues that this could have a year or two from now.
Okay, thank you. I do have a question for you. Do you happen to know if the governor's emergency education relief fund will impact our district?
Yes, they just sent out allocations last week, interim allocations, and I think we were receiving $214,000, right, Jim? I think that's what was on the list. They haven't released how or what those funds are to be used on. We're going to assume it's probably COVID supply related, whether it's getting masks, whether it's getting the schools safe for with spray or cleaning supplies and that type of thing. But they haven't released what it needs to be on, but we most likely will use it on those things anyway. We have to get additional lunch tables at a couple of the buildings for proper social distancing and those type of things. So there's going to be plenty of COVID expenses to apply it to, and that's what we think they're going to probably have us to do with that money.
Okay, great.
Sure.
That's good to hear.
Any other questions?
Does that wrap it up, Mr. Roberts?
That's it for me tonight.
All righty. Thank you very much. Any questions? Anybody not hit the button quick enough? All righty. Mr. Sattler, Superintendent's report. I know there's a lot in here, so looking forward to it. Go ahead.
Well, thank you, Mr. Kruger. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our viewers. Let's start off with some great news. I would like to share this with our community that Mrs. Sandy Tomaschek, who is a Cisco Academy teacher at our high school, was selected as the Ohio Teacher of the Year for District 9 and is now one of 10 candidates for the State Teacher of the Year award. State Board Member Stephanie Dodd had this to say about Mrs. Tomaschek after reviewing her application. We were very impressed by the work that you are doing and the positive impact you are making in your classroom and in the lives of your students. We were impressed by your desire to continue your own lifelong learning, and your ability to lead by example and prepare your students for post-secondary education and future careers is one that will have a lasting impact on their lives and community that they live in. Mrs. Tomaschek is absolutely deserving of this award. She has truly gone above and beyond to develop the Cisco Academy. She has completed 70 hours of coursework and has earned her Cisco Certified Network Associate license. Her program continues to grow because she has built a reputation that she cares and she does what it takes to help her students be successful. So, Mrs. Tomaschek, congratulations to you. We're extremely proud of you. You're doing a fantastic job, and we wish you the best of luck as you are in the running for the State Teacher of the Year award. So, great news for one of our staff members. So, congratulations to Sandy. And now, yes, that's good stuff. So, you know, it's always good to start on a positive, and not that the back to school plan is not, but let's get to the back to school plan. Tonight, under the action items section of the agenda, the board will be voting on our back to school plan. This evening, we're going to take the opportunity to discuss the plan and answer any questions that you may have. I'm not going to read it page by page, but we will go through it. We'll give a more general description of the plan, and then we'll go into the questions that you may have. Let's start with this so everyone knows, folks, this is not the plan that any one of us wants. I don't care whether we're here in Canal, Winchester, we're across the state. Unfortunately, the circumstances that we are in is making us develop a plan that is not what we would call a traditional return to the school year. And so when we were designing this plan, we had a point of interest with 4 points of interest. One was the health, safety, and well-being of students and staff. 2, the importance of students being in school in some way. 2 weeks ago, the American Academy of Pediatrics came out and said that students need to be in school, whether it's all in 5 days a week, whether it's on a hybrid plan 2 days a week, whatever it needs, they need to be back in school because the social and emotional interaction with their peers and teachers is important for their well-being. And so one of our options is either we're all in or a hybrid. So it's kind of meeting the study from what the American Academy of Pediatrics is saying. The third point of interest was having options for families, those that feel comfortable sending their kids to schools and those that really right now are not comfortable sending them to school. We wanted to have 2 options for them, which we did. We also took into consideration parents and their work schedules and childcare issues. We know all of this come into play when we do something different than all in 5 days a week. So we had all those in our mind as a point of interest. And then, of course, the last one was following the guidelines set by the State Department, the Franklin County Public Health Department, and the CDC. And so without further ado, I'm going to pull up the plan. Maybe. And could everyone see that? Yes? Okay.
Yes.
Yep, you're good,
Okay.
Jeff.
Thank you. Thank you. So our back to school plan, I'm not going to read everything, but let's go through the basics. First of all, we offer 2 options for our students and our families. One is the school-based track, and one is the Canal Winchester Online Learning Academy track, or as we're calling it, CWLS, C-W-O-L-A. And the good part about either one of these tracks that you will going to choose is this. One, you're going to have a Canal Winchester teacher and counselor who will be forming relationships with students either on the school-based track or the online learning track. You're going to have access to programming in the arts and music and PE. There will be support services for those that are an intervention gifted, ELL. And also we're going to have clinical counseling with our professionals for all our students, and whether you're in a school-based track or a Canal Winchester Online Learning Academy. So I think it's important for people to understand that whatever track that you choose, you're going to have these types of services or programs available to you. And we thought that was important to make sure that whether you're here in school or not, we're going to have people to help you out. And that's the most important part. We want to make those connections and we want to have those relationships with our kids as best as we can, whether we're in a school-based track, a hybrid, or just remote learning, where if you're in the online learning academy. And we'll go into more specific details about those here shortly. A lot of talk about how are we going to assess where we are in regards to students and staff. And of course, a couple weeks ago, Ohio came out with their risk level guideline for the public. And so we based our plan off this risk level guideline for the public. So in levels 1 and 2, students will be in school on a regular weekly schedule. Kindergarten will be in for the 5 half days. Grades 1 through 5 will be in all 5 days. For all levels, masks are required for all students. In levels 1 and 2, it is highly recommended for all students, but not required. And of course, masks are probably the most debated item that we have out there. If people understand, there's no requirement from the state, from ODE, or even the Franklin County Public Health Department that require masks. It is all recommended. And so we are following those recommendations for level 1 and 2. And level 3, with the hybrid learning option, level 3 would require all students in grades 3 through 12 to wear a mask. In kindergarten, kindergarten 1-2, it'll be recommended to wear a mask. And then if we're in level 4, pretty much we're all at home. So wearing a mask is when you go out into public. But we thought it was very important to use these levels. It keeps all of us on the same page moving forward. Now, with that said, I also want to point out that this is not a set in stone guideline that it can't be changed, because we know things will change. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we move on. But we're going to follow the leveling system as best as we possibly can. If we were starting school today, we would be on level 3, and our students would be in a hybrid model, because that's where we are right now. We are also going to follow the guidelines set out by the Franklin County Department of Health and Franklin County. I've been asked the question, well, Fairfield County, Franklin County, we are officially located in Franklin County, so we are going to follow whatever Franklin County happens to fall under. And of course, we have the majority of our students that live in Franklin County, so we will follow their requirements, mandates, recommendations, and of course, whatever the state will come up, we will follow those. So that's the reason why we picked the levels 1, 2, 3, and 4 to go with. This gives everyone on the same page, and it really helps us in planning on how to get kids back to school, whether it's all in, whether it's a hybrid, whether it's remote learning, or whether you're with Koala. Any questions on that from the board?
I do, Mr. Sotler. Thank you for that explanation. Pertaining to the risk level chart, in the event that the level changes midweek, how do you foresee us executing that? Will the parents have to wait to the fall? Like, will it become in effect immediately, or will we have to wait for official notice from the district, or how do you see that happening?
Great question. So if it happens during the week, the new level will not take effect until the following week, either Monday or Tuesday, whenever school comes back in session. Now, however, if we go to a level 4, we might not have a choice, because the governor might sit there and say, done, just like he did back in March. And so, but if we happen to go to level 3 till level 2 goes down, we won't do it midweek. We'll finish up and start it the following week. And so we'll go from there. Now, once again, it's going to come back to how comfortable we feel in our buildings with keeping our kids safe too.
Okay.
But those decisions would not be made during the week. It would start the following week.
So in a way, it would be treated as such a school closing, like we would wait for official notification.
Yes. I will send out an official letter or email to our community saying this is what's going on and when we'll start. But nothing will happen unless we go to level 4 and we're mandated by the governor. It will take place the following week. Okay.
Yeah, because it's very important that families have some kind of notice so that they can prepare accordingly.
Absolutely. Yes, with childcare issues and all that, we want to make sure all our families have enough time to make those adjustments.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions in regards to the leveling system, to the level system? Okay, so let's go into the actual plan itself. So we have 2 tracks for our kids. One is a school-based track. Within the school-based track, we're going to have different levels. And if you follow the chart that we put out, the first level, which is highlighted in yellow, is an all-in learning level. And that's if we're on level 1 and 2, according to the chart we just talked about. I mean, students are in school 5 days a week in person, and we're going to use the increased safety precautions that we'll talk about a little bit later. Preschool, that's a typical 4 half-day schedule. This year, we're not doing a peer model based a lot on, I think we're mandated, 9 per class this year. And so we have to reduce that down. So no peer models this year, but our preschool will be operating on a 4-day half schedule. Wednesday will be the remote learning day, or will be the day that they will not have off. Our kindergarten, no matter what level that we're on, will be in school 5 days a week. And they will be on their regular half-day schedule 5 days a week. And we thought that was important to get our youngest kids in the building. They probably need to be in school more than anyone else, and especially it's only half day. There was talk about, do we do 2 full days and instead of 5 half days? And we felt best to continue with the model that we have used with the in the past. And plus, then you're talking, at least parents have that option of that they're going to be in school for the 5 days for the 5 half days. So does that make sense? All right. Now, if we go to a level 3, we're going to go to a hybrid learning model. And basically what that means is and that will be level 3 red, 2-day in person and 3-day online remote learning for grades 1 through 12. That will be divided into 2 groups, either group A or group B by your last name. So if your last name falls with between A and K, you're going to be in the Monday, Tuesday group, and remote learning will be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. If you happen to be in the last name of L through Z, you'll be in the Thursday, Friday on in-person school. Then your remote learning will be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And so Wednesday will be remote learning day for all kids. So the A group will be on Monday, Tuesday, the B group Thursday, Friday, and in between Wednesday will be the remote learning. This will give us an opportunity to have to do some cleaning for our teachers, to reevaluate what's going on, to work with the kids, to meet together, and really try to focus on doing what's best for kids. Again, kindergarten will be in their 5 half days, and preschool will be in their 4 half days. And Wednesday will be the remote learning plan. And then if we happen to go to level 4, which I hope we don't get to that level, that is remote learning for all kids. Basically, it's how we ended the school year. So all our kids will be at home learning remotely. And we have a plan in place. We have expectations that we're going to send out. So it's going to be different from how we ended last year. A lot of feedback from our parents, a lot of feedback from our kids about what went well and what didn't go very well last year. So we're putting this into the plan so our families, our teachers, our kids have an expectations of what it's going to be like with remote learning. And we felt that's important, and that will be coming out here shortly. So any questions about the school-based track? Okay.
Jim,
Yeah.
just to clarify, you want to cover the households with multiple last names real quick? I know it's in there, but just kind of highlight it, please.
Yeah, so we're going to go by, because we know that we have households that might have more than one student, of course, and they might have different last names. And there was no easy way of doing this. How do we decide on that? Because we wanted households to all be together, either on group A schedule or group B schedule. And how we send out letters to our families are about we do it with the siblings' oldest student's last name. So we're going to go by the oldest student's last name of how we decide whether you're going to be in group A or group B. And that it doesn't affect that many families, but it does have an impact on some families. But we just thought it was best that parents know that I have, with multiple last names possibly, we're going by the oldest siblings, the oldest student's last name in that household.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, the other option, if you don't feel comfortable sending your child to school, we do have the Canal Winchester Online Learning Academy. It's 100% online learning, so it's different than it's different than the remote learning that's going to take place. Students will participate through the district purchase curriculum specifically designed for online learning. This is a semester commitment and a semester commitment only. Students will stay enrolled in the district and have access to school counselors and extracurricular activities, like I said earlier. So in the grades K through 5, we have the Digital Academy. Students will be assigned courses to complete through a self-paced online learning platform, in addition to scheduled small group instruction and meetings with assigned Canal Winchester Online Learning Academy teacher. Here's the best part about this. These are our teachers, grade through 5. We are designing the curriculum right now. I think we have, Kaya, 12 or 15 teachers designing the curriculum. I can't remember how many. They're working on that now. And then they're going to meet at the beginning of the school year before the kids get back for all the teachers grade K through 5 to put the online learning program in effect. And so we're going to select teachers based on how many people choose this program. But our teachers will be in charge of it. They'll be working with their kids and monitoring those students. In grades 6 through 8 or 6 through 12, we're going to follow the Edmentum courseware for self-paced modules. It's a little different because this is an actual online courses for our kids. They're structured curriculum. We will have Canal Winchester teachers monitoring them and assigned to them to help provide support and monitor their progress. So once again, we will have our teachers monitoring and supporting our kids 6 through 12. And we will have some opportunities for gifted special ed and limited, accelerated, and AP classes. But it's different than remote learning because you're actually using an online curriculum that we have purchased, but our teachers will help provide support and monitor it. So you won't have outside people working with your students. It will actually be our own teachers. So we're hoping to have a counselor assigned to our students where they can help monitor their progress or if they need support in some way, shape, or form. But this is truly 100% online learning. And so it is self-paced. You'll be able to work on it on your own time because we know that families have different dynamics in regards to work schedules and when parents are available. And so we want to have flexibility with this program. And kids could go as quickly as they want or as slow as they want based on their progress. But we will have teachers assigned to them, monitoring them and checking their progress throughout the time. So those are our two school-based options, or our two options: a school-based track, which could have 3 different levels, either all-in, hybrid, or remote learning, and our CW Online Learning Academy, we're at Koala. Any questions on that part of it?
And just for clarification, this is going to take us up through through the end of December, and then we're going to look and see how the numbers look and where we're at the end of the year, and then it'll open back up, to my understanding, around Christmas time, and parents will get a chance to choose for the second semester. For the online learning, yes, yeah. So all kids will have once you pick your level, your track. So if you're school-based and/or the Koala, you're there for 1 semester. In December, we'll give you an option. Do you want to stick in the track or do you want to change? But they will have the opportunity to do that. Yes. So once again, we're giving options to our parents. You know, I'm being very hopeful by the time second semester comes around, things are much different, but you just never know. So, but they will have an option, Mr. Butler, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and if I may have a question. I'm not sure if you've heard or have received any guidance from the state, but do we know if state mandated testing will still be implemented? And if so, how does that impact students that are in the online learning academy?
Yes, I have not heard anything about whether we're still going to take the test or not. I think that's up in the air, but our kids will have the opportunity to take the test. We're just going to have to figure out how we do that, whether we actually bring them in separate areas. We're working on that, but we have not heard anything about the testing for this coming school year just yet.
Okay.
But they will have that opportunity. We want them to take, well, testing's a whole different story, but yes, we will work with our families on that.
Okay, great.
Very good question. Thank you, Mrs. Talley.
You're welcome.
Anything else about the either the school-based track or the online learning academy? Okay, let's move on. There's a lot of information in here. And actually, we have another document that goes into a lot of detail about how we're going to do all this. But this school-based track, whether it's all in or a hybrid, the health and safety of our students and our staff will always be our number one priority. And parents, this is where we need all of you working together with us to make sure that you're doing what we ask you to do, such as we need you to assess your students before you send them to school every day. If you think that if they have a temperature or they have some of the symptoms such as shortness of breath, breathing problems, loss of taste, please do not send them to school. We are counting on you to work with us to assess your child. And if you feel that he's ill or has some of these symptoms, please do not send them to school. We're asking our staff to do the same thing. You know, monitor your temperature, monitor your health condition. If you feel you have one of these symptoms, please do not go to school. The only way that we're going to be able to beat this and keep everyone in school is by all of us following some of these guidelines that we have out there. If symptoms happen to appear in school, we're going to isolate them in a quarantine room. Right now, all schools have a COVID room ready to go in case we have to put kids in there and/or staff member. We're going to contact the parents where they're emergency contact. We're going to contact the Franklin County Public Health Department, and then we'll make a plan of action from there. Whether do we have to close down that classroom, the hallway, the wing, or do we need to close the whole building for a period of time in order, depending on what the public health department tells us to do. So that's our first. Now there's more to it than that, but that's a quick view of what happens if we have someone in our building that shows up with COVID. We have a process to work through that. A lot of it's going to be communication with the Franklin County Public Health Department and going by their guidance, and then us making the best decision for that individual building. And it could be just a building at a time. It could be a grade level. It could be an area. I can't sit there and tell you what that's going to look like because I don't know yet. This is all new. This is new to all of us. And so we're working through this as we go. But we have a plan to address that if it happens or when it's going to happen. Face mask and/or shield. So you can wear a shield too. So you don't have to have a face mask or a shield. Expectations for students and staff will be based on the county to district risk level protocols. Even though I say level 1 or 2, it's recommended. If I believe or I feel that we cannot safely have kids in school without a mask on, I'll have no problem saying, look, we need to wear a mask to keep us in school. So I know there's a lot of questions and a lot of debate about that, but it's going to be up to myself, the district leadership, the building principals, and their building leadership team to sit down and try to assess what's going on every day and what is the best way to keep our kids safe and our staff safe. And so this is a guideline. This is new to all of us. We're learning as we go through this. But if I don't feel safe or if I don't believe our students are safe or our staff will be safe, then we will do things differently. And I think that's important in this plan to know that it's not set in stone. It's going to change because COVID changes every day for us. The governor might be coming out with new orders this week. That might change his whole plan. And so we need to be flexible in here.
And Jim,
yes.
We as the board, obviously we're going to defer to you and the administration to make those changes when necessary. Obviously you're going to let us know what's going on, but you know best what's going to be going on inside the schools in case things need to change like that. So I would think that you'd have the full board support to do that. So.
Yes, and I will definitely keep you informed before any decision is made. But that's going to be working with my district leadership team to figure that out.
Yeah.
We're going to increase the cleaning routines throughout the building. And so we're going to clean a lot more often than what we have done before, especially those high areas, restrooms. We want to make sure those are clean. Even though water fountains will not be used, they can be used to fill water bottles, just not to drink out of. But that's something that each building will do differently. I know we have sinks in the elementary building, so they could use the sinks to fill water bottle, not drink out of them, but they need to be cleaned. And so we're going to take extra cleaning in the classrooms. We're going to have hand sanitizing station in each classroom and hallway, practice social distancing. You know, anywhere, when I talked to the Franklin County Public Health Director, he said in schools, he knows it's very challenging to keep kids 6 feet apart. If we can fall within that 3 to 6 feet of social distancing, especially if they had masks on, that's a good number to fall within. So we're going to do our best to keep our kids 3 to 6 feet apart. However, you've been in school buildings before, and kids they like to interact with one another. And, we're all social beings. So we're going to have to work together to educate our kids about social distancing, staying away from each other as best as we possibly can. And this is where our parents come in and helping us out. And, if it's required to wear a mask, wear your mask, stay 6 feet, 3 to 6 feet, follow what they're asking you to do, because we really want our kids in school. We're not going to share supplies, individual supplies, no visitors or volunteers in the buildings unless it is a meeting that is assigned by either a building administrator and or teacher. So no outside visitors unless it's an assigned. We'll try to do all of them by Zoom like we're doing now. We had a lot of success with that last year. Desk arranged to maximize space between students. A lot of the flexible seating that we had is probably going to go away because we got to spread stuff out now. We're trying to get rid of some of the soft seating with that's real fabric-y because we want to keep things as clean as we possibly can. No school lockers or classroom cubbies, so students are going to be allowed to carry backpacks during the day or book bags during the day. We're going to schedule to minimize or eliminate room transitions at the elementary buildings. It's a little easier because they're more self-contained, we're smaller groups. Middle school, high school, where there's a lot more movement, they're working on different schedules to reduce the amount of time kids are in the hallways, which is a good thing. One-way hallways when possible. We're going to have signage up throughout the whole building, trying to help kids out in regards to some of these protocols that we are putting in place. Recess, playgrounds clean daily, hand washing after recess. We do want to get kids outside as much as possible, keeping within that social distance guidelines as much as possible. We also know that for our gifted and accelerated, that will continue to be provided. We also know that we have special education students that we really need to focus on and have more time in school. So right now, those who are in self-contained rooms will be with the teacher for the full day, 5 days a week. Of course, Dr. Hippler will be meeting or calling on special education parents to discuss that plan to see how they feel about that. And we're going to try to do our best to make things as normal as possible, even though we might be in a hybrid or remote learning for our kids. Food service, we're going to have some grab and go breakfast for our students. Lunches will be served. We're going to expand our dining spaces, as you heard earlier, that we are buying some more lunch tables for some of the building to spread us out more. We're going to clean after, of course, each group. And we will have, when we're on a remote learning plan or even on the a koala free and reduced take-home meal bags for remote learning days. We want to make sure our kids are fed. Transportation, this is the one that's going to require a mask for all students if you're going to ride a bus. 2 seats per kids, but you have to have a mask on to ride the bus. Nothing I can do about that because it's so close together and we have to get kids to school, but anyone that rides the bus will have to have a mask on. And then we're going to load from back to front, and then we're going to unload from front to back so we don't have that interaction going back and forth. And then extracurricular events we're going to follow the guidelines, no large group events. So all those back to school meetings that we had at the beginning of the year will not happen this year in person, and no field trips for this coming school year. So I know that's disappointing for a couple of the groups that wanted to go. We didn't have the DC field trip for 8th graders last year. We're not going to have it again this year. Really not a whole lot we can do at this time. So I don't want to say hold off on it, put money down, then we eliminate it again, and that's a hassle. So no field trips. A lot of information in this on this slide here. Any questions? Okay. Next slide really just talks more about if we're in a level 4 here. That is basically we're going to be all remote learning. For the entire district. Those that are in the koala will continue on those services. And then with our learning level 4, it will be remote learning And we do have a plan to make sure that there are expectations and guidelines for teachers and students in regards to what does that look like when we're 100% remote learning. Let's hope we don't get to this level. That's the last thing any of us want, is to get to level 4. So hopefully that does not happen. We have some nice, we'll have signage out there. Access to school grounds will be determined by myself or state or local mandates. We will continue our food service program. We do have one-to-one Chromebooks for all students now, K through 12. So every student will get a Chromebook. And then, of course, the extracurriculars will follow Ohio high school guidelines. And then this page covers our online learning academy. Once again, the most important part about this online learning academy, especially for grades K through 5, is our teachers will be developing the program, and they will be monitoring and helping our kids in that program. The 6 through 12, we're using the Edmentum courseware, and there's a link that parents can go on. Even though our teachers will be assigned to that to help our kids, but it's more of a monitoring to see how they are progressing through, but someone will be in contact with your student throughout the week to see how they're doing. But that truly is more of an online program like you see at the college level. The remote learning will be that teacher assigned to that kid during that school-based track, where the online learning is more of, this is the curriculum that you're on, the math, reading, science, social studies, an AP course, whatever it happens to be, and you're going to follow their curriculum, and a teacher, one of our teachers, will monitor that. And so I think it's important that if you're going to choose an online learning, that you use the Canal Winchester Online Learning Academy, because they will be our teachers meeting with our kids. And I think that's a big plus. Plus, you'll get all the services that we normally offer through counseling and/or mental health services and anything else. We want to make sure these are our kids. We want to take care of them as best as we possibly can. A lot of information. Any questions?
I do have a question, Mr. Sattler.
Yes.
You may get to it momentarily, but for families who have students that fall in grades 3, 6, and 9, I understand that you're gonna have an orientation. And if those students choose the online track, will they still participate in a virtual orientation, or will they not have an orientation?
The orientation really right now is for the kids coming to the building. We did not have any transition for them last year because we were shut down. So we thought it was important to bring them back and have an orientation. We did it at the high school for the last couple of years with 9th graders, and it was a huge success. So we thought this was a good way to get our kids back into the group without being overwhelmed with everyone else in the building, even though right now, if we're in a hybrid, it's only 50% of the building. But we thought it was good just to have those kids in there, the 3rd, 6th, and 9th. Good question about the Online Learning Academy. That's something I could talk with my staff about. Is there going to be a virtual one for them? That's a good idea. So that's something we could think of. So Cindy and Deb, take note.
Monica, one thing that we have discussed is that we will put together, once we know how many students are going to choose the online option, we're going to put together a handbook that will state, really for our orientation for those grade levels, everybody going to that is new to the online world. So we're going to have to do an orientation probably for everyone that enters, including their parents. So what to expect, and that would be more of a virtual experience for them, but we would definitely have something in place so that everybody understands what's expected of them. The other piece would be the attendance criteria. That's something that the Ohio Department of Education just released, and we're working through what will attendance look like. So all of that information would be included in that.
Okay. So as a sub question of that, I understand the starting dates for those students in 3rd grade, 6th grade, and 9th grade are different from everyone else. So if you're online, kind of wondering what the actual start date, will it be September 2nd or September 3rd?
Actually, I'm going to get to that in a few minutes here. So I'll cover both with the with the start date. So I'll be there in a few minutes.
Okay, certainly.
Good question. All right, the next one is how do I select my track for my students? Really using our online forms, which you do every school year anyway to fill out the forms. There will be a section in there for selecting your learning track for each student in the household. And you're either going to select school-based or the CW Online Learning Academy. And we're hoping right now all forms should be completed by July 31st. I know that's only 2 weeks away. And your parents probably still have a lot of questions, which, okay, email us or call and we'll try to answer those questions as best as we can. But we really need to have this information so we can start assigning. We don't know how many kids are going to take the online learning. We have to group kids according to their last name and the alphabet. So there's a lot of work that has to happen in the month of August for us to be ready by the start of school. So we're really trying to hope that we get all these forms filled out by July 31st. I think we have over 500 of them already in. So people have already said which track they want on. So parents, if you have questions before you want to make that decision, please send me an email, send the district an email. And if it's a curriculum question or a safety question, we'll send you in the right direction. And then, well, actually send it to Bridget, I guess, and then we'll send it in the right, sorry, Bridget. So she's our family engagement communication liaison. So a lot of information in this report, a lot of time and thought and effort went into it. I want to thank everyone who helped with the report, Mrs. Hunt, Mrs. Toledo, Mrs. Fink, Mr. Whitlatch, Dr. Bruning, Mr. Hoffman, our building principals, Mr. Henderson, Mrs. Zipchak, Mr. Riddle, Mr. Lolithan, the assistant principals, everyone, my administrative assistant, Mindy Trout, Bridget Kruger, our family engagement communication liaison. We put a lot of time and effort in trying to figure out what's best for our kids. This is not the plan that we want. We understand that there, are going to be people that this isn't going to be for everyone. Whether it's a school-based track and or the online learning, but really there was very few options for us. It was either we're going to be in school, either all on, we're through our 2 days a week, or we have our online learning program. So we rather have kids in here every single day teaching them without anything, wearing anything, back to a traditional day. But right now, that's not the environment that we are in. We're going to continue to follow the Franklin County and mandates and all the state mandates, and we'll do the best we can. This is a working document. It's not set in stone. We're dealing with a moving target, and things are constantly changing for us. We know when the governor is he's going to come out with new orders sometime this week. He might come out with new orders in 2 weeks from now, and that could change our plans. And so we need to be as flexible as we possibly can. I also need the opportunity to assess conditions to determine if we can safely educate our students following these guidelines. And so there are just so many unknowns right now. And I know it's difficult for parents to make decisions, but I want them to know we're doing everything we possibly can to keep our kids and our staff safe and to provide a good education for them. Questions before I go into the start of school?
Jim, just to let you know, I've talked to a lot of families over the last since last Friday, and seen a lot of posts back and forth, and I really think it came through well with the layout of the plan that everybody is very appreciative of the lengths that you and your staff and the administration and everyone is doing to really lay out a plan that's going to work best for the families. I heard a lot of positive feedback on that. Obviously, there's still some more questions that need to be answered through, as it goes along. And like you said, we still have to figure out what the answers are to some of those questions because it is ever changing. So I'll echo your thoughts in terms of thanking everyone who put the effort into doing this, because I think is extremely professional, laid out, and able to help families make their decision what's going to be best for them. So thank you.
Thank you. I also want to thank our community members who the emails that were sent to us, and I received many of them, were letters. And back in May, we did a survey, and gain a lot of information from them. So it was putting everything together. So I want to thank all the people who sent emails to us with their thoughts about how things went last year and their thoughts about this year. We took all that into consideration. So truly, it was we looked at all aspects of this plan moving forward. Okay, move on to something real quick. I am going to make a recommendation to change the start of the school year. It was originally stated for August 31st, which is a Monday. I'm going to ask the board to move that back to September 2nd, start the school year September 2nd, and that will be grades 3, 6, and 9, and that's for the orientation process. And then on September 3rd will be the first day of school for the A group, and September 4th will be the first day of school for the B group. We want to do this no matter what level we are in, because we need time to assess our plan. And we need time for our teachers and our administrators to see how are these guidelines that we're putting up in the building, the flow of kids, by the time they get off the bus, they come into the classroom, go to lunch in the hallways, and the time they get on the bus, how that all looks. So we need time to assess that. So, and right now, if we were to start school, we would be on hybrid because we're in level 3. And then we will go with one part of that is school. We had on October 12th was a professional development day. Kids were not in school. So what we would like to do is move that professional development day to the beginning of the year on August 31st. So we have extra time for our staff to work together on these plans. And so October 12th will now become a regular day of school for kids. So I am recommending to the board that we start school on September 2nd for grades 3, 6, and 9, and then September 3rd for Group A, September 4th through Group B. And if we were starting school right now, we'd be on level 3, and then on that Tuesday would be AA, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then BB with the hybrid model.
Jim, as you said all of that, we're going to cover that in a little bit more detail in the action items, correct? We're going to have a graphic and show that plan, or is that calendar available? Because I don't want people to check out now after hearing that, and then we've covered at the end of the board meeting. Are those graphics we can show now, or are we going to show those later in the board meeting?
The actual calendar?
Yes.
Yeah, we can show them. Yeah.
And where are they available? They're obviously on the school website, correct?
Well, once we approve it, it will be on the school website. Yes.
Right. Okay. All right. I just want to make sure, because I'm a visual person. You said that I wanted to see it. So if they want to stick, are we going to show that in the action items as we look to approve that, or are we just going to post it tomorrow once approved on the school website? Where can folks find that?
We can bring it up if you want.
On the action items?
Or, yeah, either way. Or I do know that if you follow the plan and it on the website, there are links to the different calendars built into the plan. But we could pull it up if you want.
Yeah, we'll do that during action items.
We'll do the action items. Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to I didn't want people to check out, Jim, of the meeting if we're going to show those calendars later on. So, okay. So
do that.
The podcast listeners can hang on then, Jim.
Okay. Real quick, there is a second action item that we'll talk about as we get there. Actually, that's a discussion item in regards to the school fees. We'll have a discussion on that, and then the board can decide whether we want to move that to an action item. Another change that will be in here is the start of school for the end of school for the middle school and high school. We need to end that 30 minutes earlier. The reason for that, we need time for our kids to transition off on the bus in an orderly fashion and not a mob, and then get them to the homes and then come back to the elementary buildings. We know this is going to take a little more time, so we need some more time at the end of the day to get our middle school kids and high school kids on the bus in an orderly fashion, because remember, we have to load in a specific way. And so we felt best is to end the high school day 30 minutes earlier and the middle school day 30 minutes earlier, which will give us time to get to the elementary buildings on time. No change to the elementary buildings at all, just to the high school and middle school. So we have that transition time with the transportation. Plus, we have seating charts for everywhere in the building in case we have to contact trace. So from the time they get in their classroom, at lunchtime, study hall time, on the bus, we'll have seating charts for everyone. And so, but that transportation is critical for us to give us extra time to load those buses in the afternoon, because we know it's going to take us more time.
So middle school and high school kids may show up home a little bit earlier than normal, is what you're saying.
If you're a ride, or if someone's picking you up, or if you're a high school kid that drives, yes.
Okay.
If you're on the bus, I don't know how quickly that's going to turn around. It could be a little bit earlier. We don't know how long it's going to take to load our buses.
Okay.
And so we just need some of that extra time. And then the elementaries are working on a plan to load their buses during the afternoon too, but their times don't change.
And again, every bus rider is wearing a mask, correct?
Every bus rider has to wear a mask. So yes. So that's important for everyone to know. I know there's questions out there, but what happens if a kid doesn't wear a mask? Well, the first thing is we're going to try to educate them, talk to the parents about the importance of wearing a mask when it's required 3 through 12. So we don't want to turn into mask police. We don't want to turn this into discipline. I'm asking all parents, whether these are tough decisions, but please work with us. Our main goal is to get our kids in school, whether it's 5 days a week or whether it's 2 days a week with the hybrid. And we have to do everything we can to reduce the spread, to get our county down in the level system so we can bring our kids back to school. And that's what we're trying to do. That's all we can do right now. Whether you like it or not, that's what we have to do. It's important for our kids to be in school. And it's and at the same time, we got to keep our kids safe and our staff safe.
So in the event that a child loses their mask, like by the end of the day, will the schools be able to provide some masks for those kids so they can get back on the bus?
Yes, we will have masks here to provide for kids that forget it, lose it, it breaks or something like that. We are asking our parents to provide their own mask, which I think every parent would feel comfortable doing that. But yes, we will have masks at school for those situations. Correct.
Okay.
Or shields, yes. Yep.
There will be no kids stranded at school, Monica. They will have masks and we will send them home.
Oh, thank goodness.
Okay, Mr. Sattler.
At this time.
Okay. And again, we're going to cover some other things later on, so we'll jump back into this a little bit, correct?
Correct. Yes, you'll actually vote on it later. And if you have more questions, we can go from there.
Fantastic. Thank you. Okay. We're going to move to district reports. And does anybody have questions about the chart? Was that up there as a discussion, Jim, or just because that's the only really report available at this point?
No, that was just for you to see. Just
Yep,
like
gotcha.
normal. Yep.
Okay. I don't know if you want to highlight anything or not from that report.
No, Mr. Roberts, anything that needs highlighted from that report? No. Charter Worlds is doing a great job. They continue to feed our kids throughout the summertime. So Tammy and her group are doing an outstanding job.
Okay, great.
Want to mention anything about the waiver, or you just kind of want to wait to get that back?
Yeah, let's wait till we get that back.
Sounds good.
Okay, we're going to move on to the consent agenda. I need a motion for the consent agenda.
So moved.
All right, Monica and I will second it. And we'll turn that over to Kaya and Nick and Jim and whomever else.
Am I sharing my screen right now?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you make it bigger?
That work?
Yeah, that should be fine, Kaya. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So we'll start first with the minutes for June. We'll move on to certified personnel. We do have a couple letter of resignations. Marcia Gibbons is resigning. She will be retiring from nursing. She won't go to SDRS for a couple years, but she has been with the district for 19 years. So we just want to thank her for her years of service to the district. And then we also have a letter of resignation from Bethany Welch. We do have a extended unpaid leave of absence request from Brian Ames, and that is being approved per the collective bargaining agreement. You'll notice that we are asking you to approve 4 days from 19-20 school year. So this past year, Nancy Husky did work additional days for us this summer, helping with Power School and get things closed out for the year. So this is just to for her to be paid for those days that she did work. Moving on, you'll see extended days that we're asking you to approve for the 2021 school year. Generally, when we come to you, our extended days, we come to you in May, and there are a bunch of them. At this time, we're just approving our counselors. We do know that they're going to have a lot of work coming up here starting August 1, so they'll be in quite a bit. And that's what you'll see here are our counselors at the different buildings. Moving on, as Mr. Sotler mentioned, as he was going through the plan, talking about the K-5 curriculum, these are the individuals that are creating the curriculum for the K-5 program. So you'll see the different amounts there and what content they will be building. And last but not least, if you recall, Nancy Husky resigned from us, again, kind of like Marcia, for the purpose of retirement. And she is going to come back and help us as needed with Power School for the 2021 school year. And that will be not to exceed 8 hours per week. Moving on to classified, we do have a letter of resignation from Cheryl Burton for the purpose of retirement. She is a high school paraprofessional. We want to just wish her luck and, for her future. And we also have a sub bus driver, Jennifer Goodrich. Last part of the consent agenda here will be our supplementals for the fall. We do have a couple resignations, and then you'll notice that we're hiring the remainder of our coaches and for marching band with percussion and the band corps. We also have a few volunteers.
Okay, any questions on the consent agenda from the board? Anyone?
No.
Okay, Mr. Roberts, will you please call roll for the consent agenda?
Mrs. Talley,
Yes.
Mr. Kruger,
Yes.
Mr. Butler,
Yes.
Mr. Metzler,
Yes.
Mr. Unati.
Yes.
Wonderful, that passes 5-0. We're gonna move on to action items. The first action item is a contract with Meta Solutions. I believe Nick is gonna speak to this, please.
Real quick, Mr. Kruger, I just got notice that maybe the agenda items weren't showing up. Can you now see the action item for Meta Solutions on the screen? No?
No.
Okay, I'm gonna, as Nick's talking, I'm gonna attempt to
Can you not?
something else real quick.
Okay.
Meta Solutions contract is a service contract for the student information system, the Power School system. It's for the actual software and the support of the students. $77,917 this year. We've been with Meta for quite a while. ITC required to have an ITC, so this is the contract for that.
Okay, I don't believe we had a motion to move that yet, so I need a motion for action item number 1 for the
So
Meta.
moved.
Got Mr. Butler, I need a second.
Second.
Mr. Yanati. And Nick just spoke to it, so go ahead and call roll, please, Nick.
Mr. Butler,
Yes.
Mr. Unati,
Yes.
Mr. Kruger,
Yes.
Mr. Metzler,
Yes.
Mrs. Talley.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0 for the Meta contract. I'm going to need a motion for action item number 2, which is the recreation fund approval. I'll go ahead and make a motion for that, please. Need a second.
Second.
Mr. Metzler. Okay, Mr. Roberts.
The Ohio auditor requires fund approval for any new fund, and we did not have this fund. So this is the first step, and then I'll send it to the auditor to get their approval. It is in our guide, so it is a fund that we can create based on the Ohio Revised Code. So I don't expect any problems. We'll create this fund, and this will be the fund that will manage the self-sustaining recreational district.
Okay. Any other questions on that? All right, Nick, go ahead and call roll, please.
Mr. Kruger,
Yes.
Mr. Metzler,
Yes.
Mr. Butler,
Yes.
Mrs. Talley,
Yes.
Mr. Unati.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. Action item number 3 kind of goes along with that a little bit, but this is to amend the treasurer's contract. I'm going to need a motion to speak about amending the contract.
So moved.
Mr. Butler.
Second.
Go ahead. That was Mr. Metzler, I believe, for the second. Nick, you want to?
Yeah, the amendment is to cover the fiscal agent. Of course, I sent it to Mr. Unati and Mr. Kruger. Legal, of course, wrote a novel to address some precautionary type things, and then we get a one sentence thing. But I understand legal is trying to cover everything to make sure they properly gave us the guidance. We'll make sure to follow that. I think the big takeaway is that I have no managerial decision making with the joint rec department, which I wouldn't anyway. So that would be up to the CWJRD board and, of course, the Board of Education to make those type of decisions. I would just be handling the fiscal side of that and not be having any input on management decisions.
And Nick, I believe this is going to be written into your job description as part of what you do as a treasurer for the Canal Winchester School District. You'll also be assisting with the CWJRD financial officer as well, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. So if you were not to be here, this is still going to be something that is part of the duty of the treasurer, not of Nick Roberts.
Correct. It's the duty of the treasurer. You are correct.
Thank you. Just wanted clarification. We appreciate your help with this, Nick. Thank you very much.
And just to clarify, this is just managerial, not decision making.
Correct. No, the joint rec board was.
Nick, when you come back online, we'll have you. Yeah, Mike, it is managerial, not. Okay. Kaya, can you take roll for this until Nick reappears? Is it Kaya? Jim?
Kai is muted.
Where is everybody?
I'm here.
Deb Fink, can you take roll? I see you up there.
Well, I was going to say something that I know that this year with all the changes, especially with because my boys always do the fall and the spring sports with CWJRD, but with obviously with the coronavirus and all the changes, they weren't able to have a season this spring. So I would imagine that this is going to help out both obviously the community with CWJRD and obviously for our students and our staff and the community, just to make sure that obviously they have a solid fiscal agent. So overall, I feel pretty positive about this because I think it's going to help keep the CWJRD afloat, and obviously it's going to help our students and obviously our community. So when you brought this to the board, or when this was brought to the board, I thought it was a positive for both parties.
Yeah, Kevin, we've always, I mean, not to correct you, but we've always had great financial help through a third party. But what this is going to actually do is save quite a bit of money. for the CWJRD. So instead of paying a third party CPA to manage the books to go through the audits and such, Nick and his team is going to take this on, and looking at Mr. Watson, he's going to help out as well. It's a huge savings for the CWJRD, but it's also bringing that organization in with the school as a true joint rec. And Will Bennett had a lot from the city council. He had a lot to do with bringing this all together. So really a team effort. So it's been really nice.
Well, excellent. And I know for especially the young kids, the CWJRD and what they do is so important, so integral. So when this kind of got brought up, I thought that this was a huge positive. So I just wanted to point that out because I know it's I think it's awesome. So
yep. Yes, thank you. I did just learn that the Ed Center lost Wi-Fi. So that's why we lost Nick, Kaya, and Jim.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the tech person is working from home during this session, so I'm not there to troubleshoot why they've all lost connection. But we dropped all 3 of the key core people that were working from the education center during this meeting. So we're trying to troubleshoot and figure out what to do to get them on.
Okay. So Deb Fink, you might have to take roll.
I can take roll if you need me to.
Now, why don't we just hang on, because we have the next one's a big hire. So we'll wait a moment. Talk amongst yourselves. Dr. Bruni, anything you want to talk about while we're in dead air here? What kind of great things are you doing with transportation and security?
Honestly, I can tell you we are kind of working on transportation plans accommodating the 2 seats and a student. Kind of has been alluded to. Yes, we are working on backup plans. What do we do with kids that don't have a mask? Obviously, education is the main thing with this, but that we're also going to have spare masks on hand so that if the child forgets it, or as is going to happen at the bus stop, somebody's probably going to take someone else's. Well, we're not going to be prohibiting anyone from coming to school because of that. We're going to have extra masks on hand for kids to wear on the bus.
Okay.
And really, it would only be if a child totally refuses not to. That we'd have to have maybe some education with that. But we're looking at this initially, at least as a learning opportunity. And really the Board of Health was, I think, gracious to allow us to have that many so that we could actually get kids to school in a reasonable time frame.
Are you creating like a little halo around the bus driver where the first couple seats are not going to be sat in?
Yeah,
so that...
we're gonna have the seat behind the bus driver empty.
Okay.
And then we're debating at this point of whether or not the front seat opposite the driver. I mean, distance-wise, that's fine. We're just kind of waiting to get some feedback from the health department as to whether or not they feel the whole front seat needs empty or not.
Okay.
Have you considered a plexiglass barrier for the driver?
Well, we've considered that, but the way the law was written, if you put the plexiglass barrier in, you have to also remove the front seat.
Oh.
So we're not real geared up on removing the front seat. I mean, we can do it, but no. So I guess at this point, no, we're going to use more distancing involved with that. We're working presently to have then a face shield for the drivers as well as a mask. Certainly the health department has said a face shield would be sufficient, but for those drivers that want that extra layer of protection, having a face shield in addition to a mask, I think would be a nice preventative measure for the drivers. Because quite frankly, honestly, our drivers are older. Probably our oldest demographic of our employees in the district are our bus drivers.
Okay, so keeping them safe and
Yep.
Separated is a very high priority.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Bruni. Appreciate that. Nick, do you want to call roll for action item number 3 for us, please?
No, Nick.
Yep, he's there.
He may not be fully reconnected yet.
We had to log back in using our phones, so I'm sure he's just working through that here for a minute.
There he is. Mr. Roberts?
Mr. Kruger, he is currently calling in, so he's
Okay.
going to use audio. I think on his phone, I hear him.
Yeah,
He
we
should
can see him.
Okay. It's like the Blair Witch Project. He's all over the place. Nick, you're on mute.
There.
Now can you hear me?
There you go. I should have stuck with Deb Fink. She's solid.
Whew. I realize I'm not that strong in technology.
Okay, Mr. Roberts, we're going to need you to call roll on action item number 3, amended treasurer's contract.
Yeah, we could have lost service at another time, huh? Mr. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. Butler? Mr. Metzler?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Kruger?
Yes.
Mrs. Talley?
Yes.
Mr. Unati?
Yes.
Good. Motion passes 5-0, the longest action item motion in history. Okay, everybody take a deep breath. We're going to move on to action item number 4. I need a motion to improve administrative personnel.
So moved.
Mr. Yanati,
Second.
Mrs. Talley. Jim, is this you or Kaya?
No, this is me. And we're talking about the assistant principal, Rodney Harris, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, it is my pleasure to recommend Rodney Harris as the assistant principal at Canal Winchester High School. Rodney is from the Akron area, Twinsburg, actually. He is currently living in Virginia. But one of the big reasons why I'm hiring because he is a Browns fan. So I feel a connection with Rodney is a 25-year veteran of the Marine Corps. He was a master sergeant. He is currently working in Virginia schools. And I believe he is an absolute great fit and will be a great team member to the Canal Winchester family. He talked everything about was fostering a relationship with people, with kids, with their families. He was all about teaching to the whole child. He's talking about making good choices and how your choices will dictate the consequences in your life. He talked about leaders going above and beyond to do what's best for the individual and the organization. And again, he talked about those relationships you build, not just in school with the kids, but outside when you attend events out in the community. He brings a fresh set of eyes. He doesn't believe that because it's always been done this way, this is the best way of doing things, and he's willing to try new things. He's going to bring a lot of energy. He's focused on building relationships, results, challenging one another, and always learning. And I'm very excited to have Rodney on board. I think he's going to do an outstanding job, and he's going to be a great team member and a great fit for our community.
Fantastic. Can't wait to meet him. So, Nick, will you please call roll?
Mr. Unati?
Yes.
Mrs. Talley?
Yes.
Mr. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. Kruger?
Yes.
Mr. Metzler?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. Action item number 5, the employment of administrative personnel. for the maintenance supervisor. And Jim, I believe you have this one, or Nick?
I'll take this one.
Okay.
You have a first or second?
Oh, great. Yes, I need I'll go ahead and make a motion. I need a second.
Second.
Mr. Butler is the second. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Mike Bridge is currently the assistant maintenance supervisor. Roger McCloney, who is our head supervisor, will be retiring this calendar year. And so we are going to make the switch starting August 1st. So Mike Bridge will become the maintenance supervisor. And Mike has been with us for over a year and has just done an outstanding job. Extremely talented, extremely skilled, knows what he's doing, and will be a great fit. Roger will continue to work with the high school, the OFCC project, and he will be working with Dr. on our COVID team to make sure that our schools are ready to go, they're cleaned, and we have enough supplies. So, but yes, I'm recommending Mike Bridge for the maintenance supervisor starting August 1st, 2020.
Thank you. Any questions from board? Mr. Roberts?
Mr. Kruger,
Yes.
Mr. Butler,
Yes.
Mr. Metzler. Yes. Mrs. Talley,
Yes.
Mr. Unati,
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0 for the employment of Mike Birch. Action item number 6, board policy emergency approval. This is going to be thrown to Kaya after we have a motion and a second.
so moved.
Second.
Mr. Iannotti and Mr. We'll go Mr. Iannotti first and Mr. Metzler second, please.
Okay, thank you. The reason we're calling this as emergency is simply because it won't need a second reading before approval. There are 3 policy changes that we're making, and they are super simple. So they reflect our current practice, and they're just cleaning the policy up. So 3432 is regarding sick leave. This policy has been updated to reflect current practice and to align with the Canal Winchester Education Association negotiated agreement. So again, it's current practice. We're not changing anything. We're just reflecting it with language in the negotiated agreement. And then the second one would be 3433, which is administrator vacation leave. Policy has been updated to reflect the current practice. Number 1, we removed treasurer from the language. The treasurer negotiates directly with the board on vacation. So that was removed from the policy. And we did remove language for 11-month administrators with vacation. Probably 5 or 6 years back, we made that change in policy. And some of our current administrators were grandfathered in until their contract was up. And so eliminating that just allows us to reflect policy, current policy. And then the last is 4433.01 supervisor coordinator vacation leave. This one we're deleting. When we moved positions around a couple years ago on the salary schedule, we no longer have supervisor coordinators within the classified group. So they will all follow the vacation policy for administrators. So that policy would be deleted. And that would.
And I think we were briefed on this by the committee. So does anybody have any questions from the board on those changes, minor changes? Okay. Mr. Roberts?
Mr. Unati,
Yes.
Mr. Metzler. Yes. Mr. Butler,
Yes.
Mr. Kruger,
Yes.
Mrs. Talley,
Yes.
All right, motion passes 5-0. On to action item number 7, which is the 2020-2021 school calendar revision. I need a motion.
So moved.
Mrs. Talley? I'll go ahead and second. Sorry.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Okay. All right.
We got you, Jim. Go ahead.
Okay, basically it goes back to the conversation. I'm going to ask the board to, and I can't pull up the
I
calendar
figured.
on
Yeah.
my phone.
Yeah.
We're going to move the start date from August 31st to September 2nd.
Oh, there it is.
There you go, Kaya. For students in grades 3, 6, 9 for orientation. And I believe that's the same time. And Mrs. Toledo, Mrs. Spink, correct me if I'm wrong, that's when our Koala, the Canal Winchester Online Learning Academy, will start too? Or is it?
September 3rd.
It's September 3rd. Okay, so grades, September 2nd will be grades 3, 6, and 9 only. And then on September 3rd will be a first day of school for the A group and our Koala, the Canal Winchester Online Learning Academy. And then September 4th will be B group. On October 12th was a planned PD day. We are now removing that, and that will be a day of school for kids. That's Monday, October 12th is now a day of school for kids. And we're going to move that PD day up to August 31st, so our teachers have time to prepare for our school-based track.
Okay, so does anybody have any questions concerning the revised school calendar?
Cindy, I think I sent you the wrong calendar. Can you scroll up on that one at all? Okay, so I apologize in the midst of the crazy that just happened, but that calendar is the teacher calendar. We did some different calendars to lay out the hybrid and the teachers. So if we will have these up online, I apologize for that. We will have them up online though tomorrow so that everybody can look at them.
Okay.
And really, the only change to the calendar is just the start of school from August 31st to September 3, 6, 9, and September 3rd and 4th for A group, and the October 12th PD day. Everything else stays the same.
Okay. Okay. And like I said, this will be up tomorrow on the website for parents to go and take a look at and download and put it into the personal calendar. So, Nick, you want to call roll?
Mrs. Talley?
Yes.
Mr. Krueger?
Yes.
Mr. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. Metzler?
Yes.
Mr. Unati?
Yes.
Okay. So it passes 5-0. So again, that'll be up tomorrow. We're going to move to action item number 8, which is the 2020-2021 school year plan, which Jim went over in some detail earlier. So I'm going to need a motion, then we can have more discussion if need be. So I need a motion.
So moved.
Mr. Yanati
Second.
and Mrs. Talley for the second. Jim, do you have
Yeah,
any more to add on that?
Yeah, Mr. Krueger and board, I think what's important for our community, this COVID we're dealing with a moving target and things are constantly changing. So the document that we have out here, we feel is a good plan. However, it's not set in stone. I got to make sure that one, we're meeting all the mandates that the governor might come out with. He said he was coming out with more this week. He might come out with more later. We might have also different mandates from Franklin County Public Health Department or recommendations. Also, I got to make sure that when we're in the buildings, we have the opportunity to assess and the conditions and determine if we can safely educate our kids following these guidelines. So it's a work in progress. It's a working document. If I believe changes need to be made for the safety and health and wellness of our students and staff, then I have the ability to do that because that is our number one priority. So just want to make sure, just wanted to reiterate that.
Yep. Yes. Yes. Board, any follow-up questions? Obviously, we're going to have a lot of them moving forward as things change, but as presented, do you have any questions on the school year plan?
Nope.
All right. Mr. Roberts, please call roll.
Mr. Unati?
Yes.
Mrs. Talley?
Yes.
Mr. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. Krueger?
Yes.
Mr. Metzler?
Yes.
All right. So the plan is in effect. That will also be up online tomorrow, along with the calendar for all the families to get to and take a closer look at. Actually, I was just told it was up right now. So you can go this evening and take a look at it. Okay, that is maybe done with the action items. We're going to move on to discussion item number 1, and we're going to be discussing the 2020-2021 school fees. Jim or Nick?
Yeah, I'll start it off. We've been talking about school fees for quite a few years now, not just because of the situation that we're in. There's a lot of changes coming up this year, whether we're going to be all in, hybrid, remote learning. Not 100% how to assess those school fees. So Mr. Roberts and myself would like to make a recommendation that we eliminate school fees K through 12 for the 2020-21 school year, this school year coming up, except for AP testing. We'll still have that because that's an extra test. But to eliminate the school fees for this school year. Now, this school fees only, it's not the paid fee. It's school fees only. We know that parents might have.
Gotta love technology.
Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Nick, take over.
Yep, I'll take it. So yeah, as Mr. Seiler was saying, this is only student fees only, classroom materials that subsidizes any instructional costs that is outside the board other than textbooks. We collect 60% of that at the high.
All right. Well, that's enough talk about school fees. So what we're going to do, if the board, if you're okay with the discussion of that, I'd like to move that up to action item number 9 and to amend the agenda so that we go ahead and take a board vote on the school fees tonight. Board members, any questions or discussion about that? Concerns?
I'm all for it.
I agree.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think it's definitely the positive thing to do.
Especially right now with all the uncertainty, I think if it takes a little bit of a burden off our parents, and I think it's a positive move. So I'm all for it.
Yeah.
I think it's maybe $120,000, $130,000 to the budget, which we can absorb right now and help that process with like you said, the fees to the family. So I'm going to make
77,000.
77. Thank you, Nick. That was a little bit higher than that. So I'm going to make a motion to for action item number 9 to be the 2020-2021 school fees.
Now second.
Okay, and Mr. Butler will second. I think we've discussed it enough, so go ahead, Nick. You will call roll.
Mr. Kruger?
Yes.
Mr. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. Metzler?
Yes.
Mrs. Talley?
Yes.
Mr. Unati?
Yes.
Thank you, board, for that change up and that approval. That passes 5-0. We move on to, I do not believe we have any need for an executive session.
No.
Any announcements? Does anybody have any announcements? Nope. I'm going to need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Mr. Yanati, I'll need a second.
Second.
Mr. Metzler got in there. Mr. Roberts, please call roll.
Mr. Unati?
Yes.
Mr. Metzler?
Yes.
Mr. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. Kruger?
Yes.
Mrs. Talley?
Yes.
With that, we conclude this board meeting. Appreciate everybody's assistance and work to go into it. So thank you. And hopefully we will maybe be in some type of in-person meeting next month. We'll play that by ear just like we did this one. So thank you and be safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.